Okay, either the sun is way brighter today or the smoke is actually worse in the sky for some reason. Holy cow, hopefully that rain does clear everything up, if it does come anyways. For some reason there was news about police and drones again today, which was kind of interesting, and actually it's something to do with teenagers as well, which I'll get into a little later. Okay, this is kind of random. Someone's idea of an Airbnb or something like that. And yeah, with the shot yesterday with the drone trying to do the sunset with the smoke, it does look really tiny. At the same time, as I left it up there, I think you can notice when I fast forward the video, the drone tries to stay as steady as possible, which does a pretty good job. But I'm thinking overall, picture-wise, if you are capturing like that eclipse with a drone, it probably is better to get like the landscape shots of the shadow coming in and so forth. It's probably better that way. It did make me think too, because the intent is just to leave it hovering up in the air to capture the landscape. What benefit does the drone have over just having, like, say, a very good DSLR on a tripod to take the same thing? So it kind of made me think, if you are using a drone, maybe you want to try to do something fancy, like moving forward or back as the eclipse comes in, but then you only get one shot at it, because it's one time and that's it. I guess if you are capturing stuff like that for fun, it'll require like a multi-tool purpose mission type of thing. So you need the DSLR cameras or whatever and the drone, I guess, and then you can combine them together. And this is kind of funky. It's magic, people, or this place is haunted now. That's kind of neat, just walking past something like that. And again, it's just so much more smoky today. I wonder if you guys can see it through the camera. You guys are saying that candle punching isn't used as much often, like for training and stuff. I don't doubt it, because currently I'm training with someone who's really old school. It's kind of funny because I have learned things the modern day commercialized way, so this was kind of going backwards, where I felt I needed the knowledge of how people did it traditionally as well, trying to see if there's something that's missing, I guess, from people who do things like that commercialized, because that's just one of the hardest things too of learning things like the martial arts, trying to find people who authentically want to teach it, as opposed to say like, yeah, just come like X amount here, like give me your money and goodbye. Although, just for the note, because some of you guys talked about open-mindedness, that actually helps with being open-minded, because usually when you train with other people like that, regardless of what you have, your status in other places, when you go to learn from someone else like that, you are like technically, quote, a white belt like mentality. You have to basically empty out your mind and try to learn things from their perspective. So I think that helps a lot, even though things like these drones and all that. So I'm hoping, people will have that kind of a mindset when they try to learn about new things. Forget what you know, try to understand it like in a different perspective. So it's kind of funny reading this piece of news for the drones today. Apparently in the US, there were police officers that were given some drones, but they never actually used it. And I guess until recently, they kind of thought like, maybe they should use it. But that's creating kind of a public outrage, because they feel the police are going to abuse it in a way, so it's going to affect people's privacy. It's kind of funny, like I said, how this came up just when yesterday we talked about that helicopter person like in the UK who abused like the camera when they were filming people having sex and all that. So it says here, opponents of police drones were not satisfied by the LAPD's pledge to use them only under strict rules, in addition to expressing fears about surveillance and the militarization of police. And it goes on to say, drone opponents were worried about mission creep, that police would quietly expand the use of drones beyond what is first allowed. The activists said they didn't trust the LAPD to use the drones appropriately, and said the fear of being watched by the LAPD from the sky was alarming to residents who already feel targeted by police. So overall, it's nothing too new. Like usually when people hear the word drone, they think of things like privacy and military. I mean, it even says here, people are concerned because they associate the drones that police might be using with the drones that are being used by the military. The word drone just has that implication. And to me personally, I think that is the biggest issue right now. It's just that when people hear the word drone, immediately, privacy, something flying over me, it's gonna spy on me and everything like that. Like, I'm just generally curious, like with people that have that mentality, that argue about that, whether or not they know exactly what they're talking about, like in terms of the type of picture quality and stuff that people get. And for me, I'm trying to think of this rationally. Like, I'm not from the US, but nowadays when, say, a cop goes to a scene of a crime to check something out where they think something's happening, don't they have like body cams that turn on? So in that sense of a privacy, What's so different fundamentally if the guy himself walks with the camera versus having the drone do it in general? Or likewise, if they are allowed to fly like a helicopter to surveillance stuff, what's the difference between that, fundamentally, between that and the drone, like filming people? With the privacy though, my friend actually brought up an interesting point which I had to think about a bit, because he said, I don't know exactly where the quote came from, but it was something like if people feared privacy of things like cameras or people with authority using cameras, and the only real way to solve that is everyone should have equal rights in that sense to film. So if the cops allowed to fly over the neighborhood, I guess, flying like your house and filming, then likewise the regular person should be able to do that too. Like they should be able to film the cop filming you and vice versa. Although I don't know how that would work in the sky. I would imagine somewhere in the future it would be just like a car. I mean, if a cop can have a dash cam driving a car and so forth, then you should be able to have a dash cam in your car as well. Now, would that make people feel more comfortable that way? Equal rights in that sense? Again, I don't know how that would work in the sky though, because it's too new of a tech in terms of how people manage like air traffic. I would think like the most productive thing would be like, what do they have in place to ensure if someone goes rogue and uses it in a bad way, what will they do about it? Same thing with like say recreational drone flight. I think that should be the main thing, not like just banning the whole tech in general, even though it's more efficient. And again, to me, with things like the drones, if people often associate the word drones with military, then it's just about education. This was kind of interesting to me because of that. I read this story here. It said there were a bunch of teenagers that were making a drone course, which is kind of interesting. It said here, with drone use really taking off across the country, creating a buzz from agriculture to weddings, 2 teenagers are meeting demands with a specially designed course. Like normally that wouldn't be anything special, but apparently these were like teenagers, like a 16-year-old. And it says he's already like a mentor for other young drone pilots. And it says here he got his introduction to drone flying thanks to a YouTube video about 1.5 years ago. And I guess just like him, when he starts out, like things like, hey, like, you know, things like the regulations and all that, like who knows about all that when you fly a drone? So there was a need for that, and they basically created like a course of sorts for it. I mean, to me, that was kind of cool to hear like his teachers and stuff were supporting them in doing this. It kind of makes you think too, like in terms of education and stuff. Like I hope like even places like here in Canada, they look at the rest of the world to see how people are innovating. And I hope this is not what it takes, for example, just people with a fresh mind, like say a teenager or even like a child, to be able to look at a tech for what it is, embrace it and use it like in responsible ways, as opposed to being like a really closed-minded, full-grown adult where just because you're not educated about it, immediately it must be dangerous. I mean, it reminds me again, like that's why I mentioned with the martial arts thing, like in terms of keeping like your mind open. Doesn't matter how much you know in life, if you know nothing about this thing in particular, then try to come out at it with an empty mind, completely open, try to absorb as much information as you can, and then try to make a decision about it. That made me think of the comment here, ban helicopters, ban zoom lenses, problem solved. Is life really that simple? And then just write it down on a napkin and turn it into an ongoing interim law the next day, huh? Well, at least you're being frugal or environmentally friendly, I guess, writing things on a napkin. I had a funny story today about tech and people who were spreading essentially false information because they don't know better. It was about a person using a tablet, so just think about that, a tablet, and they couldn't access the internet. So they didn't know why. All they saw was this airplane icon. And so when a kid wanted to like use the tablet to play like, you know, some games online or to browse the net and all that, the person told the kid, oh, you can't use my tablet right now because the internet's down. And the kid asked, well, why? He goes, oh, because the airplane is blocking a signal. Like literally, they're telling the kid an actual airplane was flying up in the air and blocking the signal from being received in the tablet. And then afterwards, the kid's like, that doesn't sound right. And they were insistent. The adult was telling the kid, they're like, no, you're wrong, kid. That's what this is. Look, a picture of an airplane. It means the airplane's up there. And then afterwards, they gave it to me. I was like, here, let me fix it. I just turned the airplane mode off, and then that's it. It worked. So to me, again, it just makes me think like even here in Canada, when people are coming up with those proposed regulations to like the general public, I hope people actually know what they're talking about, not just immediate word association with things that they perceive it as. Just like with this example, like you see an airplane icon on the towel or whatever, it means an airplane is above you. No, it doesn't. And hopefully people will be more open-minded, because like that's a typical example, like, hey, I'm the adult, you're the kid, I know more than you. Where in that case I would say no, the kid actually knew more than the adult in terms of tech. So I hope people see it the same way in terms of the drones and stuff. I mean, keep open-minded. That's why I think that story is actually great with the people that embrace like the teenagers and stuff, even teaching people about drones, because it is a new tech for the most part. Alright, let's try to capture some of this really bright light and the smoke again. For some reason it seems like a smoke here today. Oh man, that actually looked really dark. There was like some interesting shots of the water there just with the sunlight. I'm actually interested in how it turned out. Okay, just for reference, when I show the drone video, I'm going to film this with this camera so you guys can kind of see. Let's see if it picks up like the colors a little different or not. Hopefully you guys were able to see that. So yeah, let's see how this turns out, because I'm just leaving it up in the air literally just to capture the sunset as it goes down. Actually, one interesting note is some people say it actually uses up more batteries for the drone to stay up in the air, like just staying still. I started with 100%, it's recording for about 18 minutes and it's at 19% now, so it's draining pretty fast. Okay, so that recorded for about 20 to 21 minutes, so that's a big difference than the 28 minutes, like obviously as advertised usually. But again, so probably does take more power just to stay still. At the same time, I don't know the other factors, like obviously it's not a 100% new battery that degrades over time and all that. So something important to keep in mind, because if you're out there thinking like, hey, I'm gonna have like whatever, like 30 minutes of battery life, you'll have to factor that in too when it's staying still. At the same time, it nags you to come back. Obviously, I actually set that thing for that to say only like nag me at 17% battery left. So technically, I guess if it stayed up there for the 100% battery, it would have lasted longer, but I don't think you want the thing to fall out of the sky. Alright, see you guys later.